Hi guys, if anyone's watching this, and you are, Elodie Paré is going to join us as well. And we're hoping she can just get on. And also Giovanna Eusebi, who is still to check in with us, but we're talking food and drink for this next session. And it's something I love to talk about, and I've got some great panelists. So at least I've got you, Craig, which is wonderful news, but we're still waiting to see if we've got Giovanna. And I'm sorry, I'm looking to see if there's any update on that. But why don't we start, Craig, and then hopefully Elodie and Giovanna can join us when they're free. I'm going to talk about you, Craig. It's going to be a bit like an obituary, but a nice one when you're not actually dead, and I can say all the lovely things about you. So, Craig Sterling is the CEO of Quantech Limited, an Oban-based operation close to home then. Quantech is working with fisheries and natural food sources to maximize the value of all they harvest so that they can reduce the impact food waste and plastic pollution have on our world. Quantech's mission is to replace plastics with natural and compostable QuanSave packaging and replace harsh chemicals with natural biochitin-based solutions. I hope I've got that right. Biochitin?
Biochitin.
Yeah, I knew it. Gave up chemistry when I was very young. So anyway, you're going to fill us in about that. Craig's rich career history allows him to bring a lot of valuable knowledge and skills to Quantech, and it aligns perfectly with the company's ethos of using waste to eliminate waste naturally. So we'll crack on because I think Elodie and Giovanna will hopefully join us in due course. But Craig, anyway, this is our moment, Glasgow's moment in the spotlight, COP26. You're in Oban. I want to ask you a big question. You'll probably have to answer on behalf of the other panelists as well. How are food and drink businesses having to change to embrace sustainability?
Well, that's a good question. For instance, we have a partnership with Waitrose, and so they have decided that they would like to eliminate all single-use plastics, right, by 2023. So, other retail outlets like them are doing the same thing. So, companies need to adapt. Those who are only doing plastic currently and think that they can continue doing that in packaging, hopefully we'd like to see those days, start dwindling, right, and winding down, because plastic is a massive problem. But retailers supporting that mission are really critically important. So a retailer like a Waitrose, who is proactive, is very helpful to the biofilm market and industry, and really critically important, I think, to removing these plastics. If it has to start somewhere. It can't just be as we are here at COP26. It cannot just be governments dictating it or saying that we'd like to. We saw some climate change efforts being made, deforestation by 2030, I think, or 2050. It's a long ways out, right? Waitrose doing it on their own in 2 years for single-use plastics. Glasgow's very good at that, right? Glasgow's removing all single-use plastics. So retailers, city governments, grassroots movements, all these kinds of things can really help to start to push these technologies forward and make them the only choice. Right now, most people are using plastic because it's readily available and it's cheap.
And that's what we're used to as well, culturally. That's the point, isn't it? That we've become accustomed to, this is what we get our food wrapped in, this is what we take it home in, although that has changed in Scotland with the bag policy and everything.
Yes. Luckily, it has changed here, or it's changing anyways, right? But it's what we're used to. It's been, plastic's been around since after World War I. Really took hold after World War II, and they're in everything that we use. I don't think I can look on my desk and not see something that has plastic every few inches, unfortunately, right? So there's a place for plastics, but there's also, when there's replacement technologies, those need to be mandated. And when a technology like ours comes in, it might be a little bit more expensive. So there's ways for that to be supported, for instance, and that could be via price controls from governments. Or mandates. Mandates are much better because you don't have to have price controls to do that, right? If you say, listen, you have to choose this as your option, then that is a mandate, that is a price support control, because now that means that those biofilm options are the only options available. So I see that Elodie's joined.
She has, and she can answer the question that she missed as well. Elodie, lovely to welcome you. I better tell people who you are, because otherwise it's a waste of your time as well. Elodie is the Group Corporate Social Responsibility Director at Le Groupe Bell. For 150 years, Bell has invented and made unique cheeses from wonderful recipes. The unique know-how and high standards in terms of quality and food safety can be found in each of the 29 group factories which produce Bell produce. The famous mini Babybel, I know it well, is pasteurized, and we all know that. So we'll we'll go beyond that little wax ball of cheese and find out more from Elodie Paré just now. Elodie, are you joining us? Where are you joining us from in France, or are you somewhere else?
Yes, I'm in Paris, or close to Paris, at Suresnes, really close to Paris.
Excellent.
Sorry for the technical issue. Now it's okay.
Not a problem. This is the new world we inhabit. The imperfect is perfect for us today. It will do just nicely. I started by asking Craig. Now, I don't know if you know Craig, or you know anything about his business. In fact, before we go any further, Craig's going to give you a couple of lines resume of what he does so that you know where he's coming from. So, Craig.
Yes, so we have developed a technology to extract chitin, which is the second most abundant natural biopolymer from different food waste. So fishing waste and insect breeding waste, mushroom waste, mycelium, and we're able to convert that into plastic packaging replacements. So we have a number of suitable plastic replacements, including our new bread bag and fresh produce bag, which actually extends the shelf life of both significantly from the materials that we developed because of their ability to wick moisture, but also their ability to protect from outside environment and the antimicrobial ability that is naturally inherent with chitin.
It sounds very impressive. Okay, Elodie, the question that you missed, and I'm going to give you it now, is how are food and drink businesses having to change to embrace more sustainability? I know it's quite a big question, but what's your overview?
I think that this is a very big question, very huge one. I think that the point that is really important, it is that it's not just about the food and drink sector. It is above all sector consideration, the role of the economy really as a whole to adopt more responsible, more circular models, more inclusive offer also. And I think that the point is that the economy must respond to the challenge of the time. So it is obviously also a responsibility for the sector where I come from, the food and drink industry, but it is much more a question for the whole economy. And from my point of view, there is two big challenges that as a major player in the food industry, we have to tackle. The first one is really to be able to feed a growing world population that will reach more than 10 billion of people in the years to come with healthy food offer. And the second one, which is really linked, of course, to the first one, is to be able to do so while preserving and ensuring the preservation of the planet resources. We know that we are in a finished planet that offers a lot of resources for free, if I can say. And this is where we can talk about circularity, because food cannot create, if I can say, a natural resource debt. It must generate. So this is really with this consideration that we have to tackle these two major challenges, we have to tackle the challenges at the very heart of all our decisions that will determine the future of business model. I mean, one of the key questions is not the when, it is the how we will be able to manage this challenge. So the benefit is clear. I think that it is just a question, and it's huge, of survival and sustainability of our business and of the whole economy.
Gosh, it's a big challenge, though. What are you doing to address moving towards a circular economy and making that work, as you say?
Again, a very huge question. Maybe I can share with you what we have put in place at Bell with some few examples. Because so far we believe that really the shift towards sustainability and circularity must be integrated very early in the decision-making process to become truly effective. And we have decided really to transform radically our business model, putting CSR at the same level as finance. So it is a decision that has been taken to start with the top. And so we have decided to include CSR on the scope of our CFO's responsibility, really because we are convinced that financial performance and extra financial performance, meaning sustainability from farm to fork, are equally important, which is why we have made them inseparable in our decision making. I think that this is quite courageous. It is still a lot of work to be done. It's not only about governance, but really about giving the capacity and the tool at all levels of the company to be able really to develop this new moment of discussion where we will be able to discuss on financial indicator and commitment, as we have made since many, many years, and we are very good on that. But the question is really to develop new tools and new moment of discussion at each stage of the company to be able really to address the financial and the extra financial topic with the same level of commitment, with the same tools, and with the same vocabulary, if I can say, that we have already made on finance. This is one of the decision, I think, courageous one that we have been put in place since 1 year at Bell, but just one example.
That's interesting. Craig, what do you make of that? Does that apply for your Quantech Limited? Are these things that are the same kind of challenges that you're facing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of challenges out there for us as a company. Going from just developing the products to getting the market acceptance. The one thing, though, that's interesting is that the market acceptance is the least of the challenges. What really is the biggest challenge for us is the intermediate part, and it's the finding companies that are wanting to partner with us, who can help us actually manufacture the products, right? We're in a constant search for contract manufacturing partners who we would want to help us make our films and packaging products. We would allow them to sell directly to their customers, and of course we would sell directly to ours, but we're often seen as a competitor, especially to existing plastic companies, and so we are constantly battling that. And even that's with support from our major supply, our major retailers that want to use our products. Even when they're demanding to these companies are still very resistant because they see us as a threat. That's a problem in their thinking. That's not a problem in our thinking, but that's a problem in their thinking. And that's one of the reasons why we have this problem with climate change right now, is because these people are more protective of their space than they are open and willing to adapt to the space. And it's a necessity. Eventually, those people will be left in the dust, and I'll be happy to wave at them and say, remember the opportunity you had.
Well, it's very interesting. The whole competition thing really feeds into this, doesn't it? And how the heck do you go around that? Because this is the culture. We have to move away from that. We know we should move away from that. But how do you make the first steps in doing that? And for you, that's a very real problem to solve, Craig, because it's the survivability of your company here.
Yeah, and the thing is that they don't realize that this is going to happen with or without them. And so I don't understand why there's not more acceptance or willingness or innovation within these companies to say, hey, listen, we should start offering this. And if we're in early, we could be, at the top of the success heap for this. We could benefit the rewards of being in early. But I think some of these companies just spend more money on, campaigning against, on trying to hold up, standards and environmental protections and controls. We see that all over the world where these PACs and these companies are, basically lobbying against regulations because they know it's a threat to them, right? It's a threat to big oil and gas. It's a threat to big plastic companies, but it shouldn't be. And that's the disappointing part, is because they really are, like, our technology drops into existing manufacturing facilities. So you don't have to do a complete retooling. You might have to do some additional work to get there, but it's not a complete retool. And that's gives you the opportunity to now have an innovative product, and you can feel good about it. If it goes into the ocean like ours does, if it were to go in the ocean, it would just biodegrade. It doesn't have an impact. Versus the plastic problem, there's 287 million people, or 287 million tons is the weight of all the people on the planet. All right, that's the total weight of all the people on the planet. There's a fantastic article I read on how they came to that number, but it's pretty amazing. Now, that's less. That weight of all the people on the planet is less by about 30% than the total plastic pollution per year. So we're producing more plastic pollution than we have the weight of all the people on the planet, and that's expected to double by 2035. And so that's a substantial impact on the world. And I think we've seen it globally this year. The flooding in Europe, the flooding in America, the fires in Greece, the fires on the west coast of the U.S. Climate change is very real, and so it's disappointing to see that these companies still view it as a competition rather than opening up their doors. It's going to take someone within those companies to either say yes, we're going to do it and mandate it from the top down, or those companies will, quite frankly, I think fail in the long term, and that's on them.
It's really interesting. I was just going to ask you who would be responsible for turning the key to progress here, and you're saying it's down to individual CEOs or people in the company who have profile deciding. Would government, would there be any regulation that could help, or any push from government that would help you?
Well, absolutely. First of all, from the individual, if you can get a leader of the organization to take ownership of this and to drive it forward, it can't just be the lab person. They could say that all day, but they're not going to get a meeting with the CEO, depending on the company, right? If we can't, as large companies and large governments and cities, can, encourage these companies, these large companies, plastic companies, to do it, some internal employees can't either, right? So it needs to come from the top down. A board needs to make it happen. A CEO needs to take place, and ownership of it from within the company. Now, externally, if they're not doing it on their own, then yes, I think mandates like Glasgow's, elimination of single-use plastics is a way to do it, because you're going to lose this. So you better replace your products, otherwise you're going to have no orders. So currently, I have this much in revenue from plastic. However, that's going to start being cut in a third, a half. Once it starts hurting them financially, then that will motivate them, and that might be the only way to make it happen. Unfortunately, you would like to think that people are more holistic, but business is business. The movie Wall Street from back in the 80s or 90s, I don't know, it was a while ago, but Gordon Gekko, right?
I'm old enough to remember.
Gordon Gekko says, greed is good, right? But you think about that, and that's what these companies, that's what they can get away with it. They're doing it. So until governments help mandate that, that's why COP26 is important. That's why these UN climate summits are so important, because it's going to take government regulation at the end of the day to make it happen. Price supports can't happen because governments can't afford to pay for that, that price differential. And if you mandate it and eliminate, then in other words, make it illegal for these plastics to exist in the market, then these companies will either have to adapt or they're going to lose their revenue. So usually they will follow, the survivability and follow the money. But right now, because it's not showing that a lot of these companies are following it from a holistic desire, and it's quite disappointing.
Is that the same? I want to ask Elodie, is it the same situation in France?
Yes, exactly the same situation. And to jump on what Craig just said, I think that, of course, we need to have some positive pressure from government for our citizens and so on. But still, this is our responsibility. I mean, that we are the first generation who knows the climate change and all the reality, and the impact is already there. So we cannot just wait for the other to put laws or to our citizens to put pressure and so on. This is our responsibility. We know that we have the lever in our hands, so we have to move. Of course, it's great to have citizen pressure, consumer pressure, to have to work hand in hand with our customer, for example, and this is really key for us. And also, I would say, to jump on what Craig just said, that it is also key to reinvent, I think, the relationship we have with the retailer. It's key for us as a food industry player to really build new relationship with the retailer, more partnership, more than to be just a supplier and a buyer. And the second part, I think, that is also super key, is also to make it clear that we have in our companies really activist and positive activist employees. And you can imagine the impact of 12,000 employees that we have at Bell if they are all able to contribute concretely to this transformation of the food system. We have a huge impact. So this is a huge real responsibility. But I think that here we have so many people that want to be part of this food revolution. So that's why also at Bell, it's key for us to really promote this activist or positive activist mindset in order to, the CSR is not my problem as a director of sustainability at Bell. It's no more only my problem. This is the problem of all. This is the responsibility of all of the company. So this is why I think that, I don't know, in 10 years or maybe before that, I think that we will have succeeded if I just disappear, or my function will only disappear. And because everyone will be a CSR actor, contributor, and positive activist of this transformation.
Now, it's really interesting, Craig, because we're talking about employees and customer power here, and how important that's going to be for your company as well. I mean, what your employees has bought into the idea that we need to change things radically. They're a younger generation, they're activist employees. Is that what you've got?
Absolutely. And it starts with myself. I've been very heavily involved in environmental activism my whole life. I came from my mom, and so, and she was, and, that passed on to me. In fact, when I was considering the position for Kuntec as CEO, I was actually simultaneously interviewing for a position to take over as a director and head of operations for an environmental group in California, a very well-known, very large environmental group. So when I had the opportunity to have an impact in a different way, I decided that this was a way that I could have more impact. I'm still very closely tied with them. I have been for years. That's why I was, in consideration for the position. But it does come from activism. The consumer is has the purchasing power. If you have two products in front of you and you can choose one that is wrapped in sustainable packaging and it costs slightly more, then you can make that decision, and that reinforces it on the chain, so that eventually those other products, if they're not selling, then that'll hit them in the pocketbook again, right? So now I will say that I've seen a lot of retailers being very open. The retailers I think that I've seen, I'm talking to some of the largest companies in the world, they want to see sustainable packaging. They want to see sustainable plastic replacements. So I will say that it's very encouraging to see it from the retail side that they really do believe in it. And we're talking about some very big companies that want to eliminate plastics, want to eliminate chemicals. They want to eliminate these things, and they see the impact. That will have the pressure. So you can have the government pressure on one side, and then then the retail pressure and the consumer pressure on the other. That will eventually force these other companies. But we all know big oil and gas. They have a lot of money, and they have a lot of reason to worry about these things going away, right? And so they're the ones that are fighting it. It's not really, I think, the retailer. I don't think it's the consumer, and it's certainly not the a lot of the companies that are trying to solve the problem. So activism helps. Making the right purchasing decision helps. 79% of people, when given the opportunity to choose between one and another, will pay a premium for the other if it's sustainable. According to market research.
Well, I'm going to ask you about your biochitin, I think you said it was, packaging in a minute, just to explain a bit more about that. But Elodie, just to take on the point again about the consumer's power, if people like me that are going into shops say, this is horrible, stop doing it, that is a huge, people listen to demand, don't they? And they listen to people being turned off by it. Is the consumer the sharpest tool that you've got in your toolkit to attack this problem? Or has it got to come from government as well?
Oh, can you repeat the question? Sorry, it was not clear for me.
I'm just saying, how important is the role of the consumer here? Because we know that consumer demand and consumer concerns are something that should and certainly does impact on what a company does. Can we say that consumer demand on its own is going to be enough to really push changes, or does that have to come through regulation and different things happening at the same time?
Well, I think that it's not that simple. I mean, of course, we have to listen to the consumer. We have to answer their need and their expectation that are growing for more sustainable product and more sustainable consumption as a whole, but it is really different from one country to another. And at Bell, we have business in Europe, of course, as it is our DNA, if I can say, as we have been, we are born in France, but we have also a lot of business in Africa, in USA, and so on. So we can see that there is really a shift and an acceleration of consumer and citizen expectation regarding responsible consumption, but with different level and different detailed expectation. Someone more on the local, some more are on plastic ban and so on. Lot of them regarding healthier food. So that's why it's really important also. And this is, again, our responsibility. It's so important to listen to the consumer. I think that the point is really for the next year, really to better integrate and to better co-create with the consumer the new offer we have. And maybe if I can just give you two examples of innovation that I think shows how putting sustainability at the heart of our business model, at our ways of working, processes and method allow us really to go to more breakthrough innovation for a cheese actor like us. So just to be clear, I work for an agri-food company whose historical core business is the production of portioned cheese. And beyond the work of improving the environmental performance of farms, of course, and we have a partnership for a long time with the WWF who really allow us and help us in order to support the farmer all around the world to switch quickly to regenerative agriculture, more pasture grazing, and so on and so on. We know that we need to better balance our diet between animal and plant protein to face the challenge of an inclusive and responsible food for all. And of course, the challenge, because we are the COP26, of course, of the climate crisis. Innovation allows us to really diversify our activity and our products by developing totally new offer for us. Again, for an historical cheesemaker, we have developed a new offer in the area of plant-based and fruit-based foods, for example, with a totally new brand that we call Nourish, that offer a large range of 100% plant-based cheese, but also as we have this the chance to have iconic and positive brands such as the Loafing Co. or Babybel, as you said, Claire, just at the during the introduction. It is also our role to democratize plant-based offers through our iconic brands, bringing new experience, for example, with the Loafing Co. Blend range, which is a cheese mixed with lentil and chickpeas, etc., etc. So, again, for a cheesemaker, this is really something that is really breakthrough for us.
Yeah.
And another point, because we have Craig under this table, I mean, beyond the product, innovation also allows us and forces us to imagine packaging techniques of tomorrow, how to replace it, make it 100% biodegradable, eatable.
You need to speak to Craig. You need to get in touch with
Yes,
Craig.
exactly. This is a good opportunity. Perhaps we could eat it and sometimes or develop, and this is, we have decided to start again with the bulk pilot for our product. So this is what we are doing in France. Again, it's a pilot. It's to learn, to test with our mini Babybel and Babybel Organic. So this is only some example that shows that putting sustainability at the heart of our decision, our business model, it's also a great lever to accelerate on innovation. Of course, to answer to consumer expectation, but also because, again, we are the COP26, when a cheesemaker move also, assuming that we still have a dairy activity, of course, but also developing new offer on plant-based and fruits and so on. It is also our responsibility in order to face the climate crisis and to be able to reduce our global footprint as a whole.
Well, if you're taking things seriously, if you're talking about plant-based cheese, I would love to try that. It's absolutely fascinating. But let's talk about the packaging as well. And Craig, I was saying, there's maybe an opportunity here. Tell us about your packaging. You gave us a little bit of information about it and the kinds of products that you're actually. I hope you're still there, Craig, because I think you're still there. You've disappeared from the screen, but you're still hearing me. Tell us about the kinds of packaging. I can still hear you, which is good. Your packaging and what kind of produce you're putting your packaging in and what it's designed to do for that specific packaging, Craig.
Sure. Am I back on video now?
No, but we can hear your voice. So keep going and hopefully you'll pop back on.
Okay. Yeah, because I can see my video and I turn my camera on.
That's weird. Well, anyway, we know you're there, but keep going.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we have developed a few different types of packaging. We've developed one packaging that actually has the ability to wick away moisture, which is great for fresh produce, for fresh baked goods. It actually has the ability to extend shelf life of fresh breads substantially, 4 or 5x actually, the current shelf life of breads because of its ability to wick moisture. Now that's a natural, biodegradable, compostable product. So it's all naturally derived and it displaces plastic. Our material, if it goes into the ocean, will naturally biodegrade. Now, it's also naturally antimicrobial. So it has the ability to wick away moisture, which is important for fresh baked breads, which mold very quickly. And, typically the French have used a linen for bread bags historically because it wicks moisture. Now, on the flip side, it also does not protect it from external moisture, right? So our packaging has the ability to do both. It has the ability to wick away the interior moisture and extend that shelf life. And we've seen substantial increases in shelf life for fresh baked breads and fresh produce. So we can combat food insecurity with this. We can combat the plastic problem with this application of this product. And we're also combating the fact that currently that food waste that we utilize to make the packaging is incinerated. It's at a massive carbon footprint, and we've eliminated that incineration. So we've displaced that environmental impact. We've also developed a gray board material. So if you've ever bought smoked salmon or fresh salmon, you'll see it usually comes in a pack where there's a gold or a white or a black piece of cardboard that's inside, right?
Yeah, I know it well.
The salmon the salmon sits on top of that, and then it's wrapped with plastic. And then on top of it has another sleeve of some sort of packaging on top of that, right? So it's a lot of packaging for a small amount of food. Now, that piece of cardboard inside of there is typically either virgin or recycled cardboard. It's wrapped in plastic. As soon as it's wrapped in plastic, so it's first printed on, so it gets the color, then it's wrapped in plastic. That is no longer recyclable. There is not a way to mechanically strip the paper from the plastic. So it has to be incinerated or landfilled, which is essentially incinerated in most of the Western world. So that's a carbon impact. You also lose that paper pulp that's inside of there. So you can't recycle the paper, which we know timber is a massive environmental impact and issue. So we've developed a technology. Yes, we can wrap our film around it. That's one way to do it. But we've actually developed a technology to allow us to cast with the cardboard pulp. And a couple of interesting things happen when we do this, and it's part of our patent process. And that is that, one, we have a product now that is a replacement for that plastic issue. So we have a product that has the same functionality. However, it is biodegradable. Two, the chitin itself, which is a very strong biopolymer, it's actually what gives the structure for all of the exoskeletons for crustaceans and insects and for the cell walls of mycelium. That actually added strength when combined with the pulp. So you can use less paper pulp, which is a huge thing for the paper industry because they can use less material. And in doing so, still have a product that's strong because strength is everything in paper world, right? And weight of the pulp is everything when it comes to a paper company. Third, very cool, in addition to the fact that it's antimicrobial naturally, but very cool is that because our product is biodegradable, you can recycle it. So you can take and throw that paper product into the recycling stream and recapture that pulp. So for the first time, you have a product that now will displace, one customer that we've been talking with, one company that we've in partnership with, they do about 85 million square, feet of this material per year, 85 million of those boards basically a year. That's just that's a small company. I know it sounds big, but that's a small company. If you think about us being able to, to minimize how much pulp they use in that product and to replace that plastic and to be able to recycle that pulp. So not just use less, but then recycle and recapture what you have. So that is a huge product for us. And I would like to see that go into a bunch of different product lines that we're working on in the future.
I'll absolutely bet you would. What do you make of that, Elodie? That seems very ambitious and a pretty good, sustainable way to be wrapping our food. But you, of course, have got wax for Babybel.
Yes, we have wax for Babybel. This is also part of the experience that our consumer loved regarding wax.
I love cracking that open. It's a real moment when you get it out of the packaging. Yeah.
No, but definitely, this is a good opportunity, and I think that Craig, we will have the chance to discuss on that after the conference, if it's okay for you, because it's super
Absolutely.
Interesting, both in terms of responsible packaging, that also regarding the fight against food waste, which is one also of our key commitment at Bell. And we have been working a lot in our own value chain, of course, in order to at farm be able to make the most of the farmer production in our factory, of course, with almost all of our production that is used, and not waste away. And the next challenges we faced, and we decided to partner with Too Good To Go. I don't know if you know Too Good To Go, but we partner with Too Good To Go in order also to raise awareness toward the consumer and the citizen, because it's key that we have all a role to play, and also to explain what is the best before date to the consumer, and that they can trust their sense to look, to smell, to test the product before throw it away if there is any doubt, of course. So I really love what you have just said, Craig, both regarding this really innovative packaging, but also taking into account the fact that it's also a way to fight against food waste. So let's discuss on that.
Oh gosh, this is what this is all about, this mission. It's all about connections and people sort of, catching opportunities and ideas from each other. And I have to say at this point, I'm really sorry, but Giovanna Eusebio was supposed to join us, an amazing Glasgow restaurateur, one of the people that's really on our food landscape. Craig, I don't know if you know Giovanna, but Eusebio's is a real fixture of Glasgow eating out. And she's been involved in Plate Up for Glasgow, a campaign that's basically about having zero waste, using food like nonna used to make in the kitchen, that you would use every single bit of a vegetable or whatever, and you would repurpose everything. So it's really sad that she's not here, because I did want to ask a kind of general question, and maybe you two can help me out as well. I'm trying to think about the kinds of jobs that will be in the future for the food and drink business and how they're going to change in the next 10 years. I know it's not entirely your remit because you're not restaurateurs, but you probably got a view on it because you both deal with food. So Elodie, can I ask you, first of all, how you think the business of food and drink is going to change or have to change in the next 10 years?
In terms of jobs, you mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm sure that we don't know this job yet. Things are moving so fast. I think that what I can tell you is that at Bell, we are making room for these new jobs. This is, for example, the meaning of our partnership with startups or small innovative businesses. Some of them are very disruptive ways of working, method, business compared to more conventional food and beverage or drink businesses. But we know that we have to work. We have work to do together. I mean, because the sum of our experience, of course, and our method have the capacity to make solution emerge and to be scaled even faster. And I think that we can already see how jobs have evolved to integrate sustainability issue. My job, for example, I think that I'm in the sustainability sector for more than 15 years, and my job itself has radically changed in less than 15 years to move really from a CSR that was at the beginning a little bit aside of the business to really a CSR and sustainability development that is fully integrated into the business decision. My best friends are now the financial people. I mean, it's completely new. I think it was not the case 10 years ago. Of course, the financial people, the marketing, the sales teams, and so on. And we can also, I think, take the example of the purchasing function. I think that now we are far, obviously at Bell, but I think that is not the only case, but we are far from the basic scheme of buying as many raw materials as possible at the best price. And today's the job of the buyer is really to work hand in hand with its supplier as partner to contribute, having this positive impact on the entire ecosystem and for the sustainability of the business, of course. And this is exactly what we are doing at Bell with our partner farmer, for example, in France, to support them moving fast toward the regenerative agriculture, to promote pasture grazing, agroforestry, local animal feeding, and so on. So this is really difficult to answer this question of the future of job. But what I can say is that we are making room for them. I think that these new activist employees will force us to make it faster. And this last point is that I can see already in my job and with my colleagues that taking into account the full impact will be the future of the job. This is also the case for moving from a classical CFO financial expertise to a chief global officer that will have, of course, to pilot and to drive the business and also the extra financial performance of the group.
Thank you, Elodie. That was absolutely fascinating. I think you did answer the question. It's an exciting time. It's that we can't possibly, you're right, know what the roles exactly will be, but it seems to me there's an awful lot of room for innovation. And it sounds like a really exciting place to be working just now. As you've said, you've been in it for 15 years and it's still evolving, and it's probably doing that at such a pace now that you never dreamt of. But let me ask you as well, Craig, about the opportunities or the kinds of jobs you think might be involved. It probably echoes a lot of what Elodie is saying as well.
No, it definitely echoes a lot of what Elodie was saying. To build on that, I think you would have purchasing, personnel within the companies that I think would have a remit to find only sustainable packaging in the products that they purchase, to find sustainable sourcing of foods and the food ingredients that they use. And it really takes someone doing a full-time job, because you'll have food distributors go to a restaurant and they'll sell them these different things. Okay, I can sell you this chicken, I can sell you this or whatever, right? But I think if you have someone who has to take responsibility, it's hard for a single restaurateur to say, I need to investigate all these different things to make sure they're sustainable from start to finish, from farm to fork, as it was said earlier. And I think that if you it would take a full-time job. So I can envision that being a position right there. So a sustainability purchasing person who was focused on making sure that everything was sustainably sourced. And then to take advantage of that from a marketing standpoint, I think you would want to have sustainable marketing done. really important for us in our segments, the segments that we're tackling for our packaging, for instance, is we're looking at market segments where people would want to, basically gain the benefit of marketing that they're using sustainable packaging, right? It's not that you're just replacing the packaging. It's that you want to differentiate yourself in the market, that you're using sustainable packaging. So you want to have a whole message. If it's the fashion industry, which has had a bad reputation for all the different unsustainable practices they use, now they're sustainable. Well, market that, out of that, right? And market it so people understand that if you're a restaurant and I can choose between Thai food place A or Thai food place B, but this one is sustainable, 100 times out of 100, I'm going to go to the other place, right? And you'd want to market to that message. So I would think those would be some of the new jobs that might be created, really focusing on making sure you have the right sourcing, marketing to that point and telling the story,
That is really interesting. What you just said there took the words right out of my mouth. It's about storytelling as well, isn't it? It's about exciting people about this is not a negative thing always. This is great because this brings innovation. Would you agree, Elodie? I'm going to wrap up very soon, but it is about the storytelling and enthusing people to say change is sometimes scary, but we need to do it and it can be really amazing. Elodie.
But yes, of course, I think that what we need, sometimes it's important to reveal the sense of urgency, of course. This is urgent. As we said just before, we are the first generation who know and we are the last one who can act. So this is super important. And we still have a lot of work to be done internally and externally regarding awareness and of course, and obviously on the climate crisis. But it is also super key, I think, to reinvent a new storytelling, a new story, if I can say, positive story, showing a future that we want to be part of and that we want to contribute super concretely to. This is also super important to find the right balance, I think, between the fact that the subject is, the clock is ticking, it's super important to act right now, but, it's the IPCC syndrome, if I can say. Sometimes it's okay, it's urgent, it's really frightened. So where to start, what is my responsibility and so on. So this is also our responsibility because we have those really positive, iconic brands, sometimes the Lush Finco, the Babybel and so on, to build this new story, to build this new purpose in order to create or to invent or to create a new story that is full of hope, I think. This is also our responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, are you still with us? You're disappeared off the screen. You're still there. Maybe you would like to do a final point then about that whole thing, that it's not, yes, it's doom and gloom, but actually the opportunities, the possibilities, the innovation and the energy is there.
Oh, I absolutely think that most people would like to see it go away. I have been on the flip side of panels with some companies where I was encouraged by the fact that they were looking to find environmental friendly ways to either reuse plastics or to reduce the amount of plastics in packaging. So that was, although I haven't seen it, like I said earlier in my indications, I do see a lot of other companies being very pro environmental mechanisms that would help reduce and eliminate or reuse, right? So I think there's a lot of technologies out there. And I think a lot of people are excited and want to see it happen. If you make it easy, everyone I think is going to take the right choice and buy the product, even if it's slightly more expensive. But I think that there's a lot of ways to get there. Everyone wants to see it. Everyone sees it. You can't go to the beach without seeing a lot of plastic everywhere. You just can't. It's unfortunate. I live on the west coast of Scotland and it's gorgeous, but I can go down to the beach and I will find plastic. I'm also a diver and I'll find plastic. It's horrible. You see it everywhere. You see it in the rivers and the streams. It'd be great to have packaging products that just degrade. Our packaging actually, if it was to go in a landfill, actually helps the soil regenerate because of the natural chitin that's in it. So there's a technology there are technologies like this that are out there, and so I think that people want to see it. People are excited to see it. I think people are frustrated that they don't see more of it sooner. We've seen such a huge technological leap in things like our phones, our cell phones, and our laptops that have gone from these things where I used to have have to have people help me carry them to now it's I could put almost a laptop inside my jacket pockets. Technology is something that people have gotten really accustomed to. So I think that they see that there's an answer for it, and I think some people are frustrated. They would like to see it sooner than later. So it's good to see that finally. Now we just need to really get these products out there and continue to build upon it. There's companies that are motivated to do it, and I'm happy to see that. So
It's a
very
developing story, and a story of hope. Listen, I'm really glad you guys came on, talked to us about this, and I hope you collaborate. I hope you have a conversation that continues after this. It's been really lovely talking to both of you. Elodie,
Sure.
Thank you so much. And Craig, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
An absolute pleasure to host
My
that.
pleasure.